Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad. Tehami. Pakistan's Petroleum Minister Mr. Musaddiq Malik has confirmed that Pakistan is going to seek the waiver from the United States regarding sanctions as far as the completion of its side of the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline is concerned. Earlier, the caretaker government had opted for constructing a portion of 80-kilometer pipeline within its territory. Minister Musaddiq Malik, in an informal conversation with a journalist, said, let me quote him, that we cannot bear American sanctions. We will present our stance to the US. Iran has been told multiple times that we need their gas and we want to complete this project, but without any sanctions. Unquote. He has also said that Pakistan has accumulated the circular debt of 5 trillion rupees specifically in the gas sector, and he has emphasized the need for reforms to alleviate the debt burden. As we all know, that energy imports caused a significant burden on overall economy in Pakistan. So how crucial is Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline for meeting Pakistan's energy demands? Also, what benefits the gas supply from Iran would bring for Pakistan on various fronts? How can Pakistan go about getting that exemption from the US to complete its side of the pipeline? Also, with ever increasing energy demand in the country, what alternative sources Pakistan can actually rely upon? And also, last but not the least, the issue and the problem of the circular debt, particularly in the gas sector, how can it be addressed and dealt with? All these important points are for discussion in today's show. For that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Dr. Khalid Waleed. He is an economist. Dr. Waleed, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Also, on Skype, we are honored to have been joined by Mr. Amjad Ali Awan. He is former CEO of Alternative Energy Development Board, also former CEO of Punjab Public-Private Partnership Authority. Mr. Awan, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. Let me begin the discussion with you, Dr. Waleed. Let's talk about the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline project. Please shed a little bit of light on the history as to when this particular project was initiated and what had been the developments and the progress so far.
Well, it goes back to about when Pakistan started to have this energy crisis, particularly in power sector, and that was originated because that we had these long-term power purchasing agreement, and those power plant, those generated electricity was from imported fuel, and we needed that alternative fuels, and our indigenous gas reserves of SUI that was depleting faster, and we sort of linked or integrated our household cooking or household energy with these SUI gas. When that depleted, Asian Development Bank's report indicated that by 2030 it would be depleted by 80%. In 2014, Pakistan sort of imposed a gas infrastructure development SAS for the industrial consumer of gas, so that we can build these two gas pipelines. One was TAPI and second one was Pakistan-Iran gas pipeline. So it started from there. It was its main aim was that Pakistan needs to address the 3D problem of Pakistan, and that 3D problem is deficit, debt, and the diversification, lack of diversification, you say. Debt problem, that is primarily because of the deficit that we face on the fiscal front. That fiscal deficit comes from the energy deficit because we import lots and lots of energy. The solution to these two Ds was found in diversification, and diversification in the form of that we need to explore multiple fuels and we need to explore multiple sources of the fuel. Particularly, we need to sort of offset our dependence from the Middle Eastern region and connecting ourselves from the landlocked Central Asian republics or from Iran. So these two projects, TAPI and Pakistan-Iran gas pipeline, was built. So for Pakistan, if we want to have this sort of diversification available to us, so that we have this buffer or sort of an independent state in terms of energy sources are concerns, this is a very important project for Pakistan. Secondly, because our household sector, particularly in urban centers, they are linked with this pipe gas line infrastructure. We need that because it is not the time that we convert our cooking preferences to the electricity, because that is expensive. So we need to have that in mind as well. Secondly, our industry is obviously is powered by the gas as well. So we need to provide that. So taking these 3 or 4 factors into account, Pakistan need to develop, or Pakistan need to have these alternative available to us, so that in case of any external shock, if I give you an example, crisis in Middle East or Russia-Ukraine conflict, Pakistan is not just dependent on one source of energy, that is the fossil fuel coming from the Middle Eastern countries. So Pakistan need to develop that. It provides that cushion for Pakistan's energy supply and energy needs. Pakistan, maybe it is a far-fetched thing, but if Pakistan wants a green transition, transitioning its economy from fossil fuel based economy to renewable based economy, gas is, I guess, acts as a transition fuel. We can sort of transition our power industry or energy industry to gas, maybe natural gas.
Yet it would be considered, yet it is considered as one of the fossil fuels, isn't it?
It is fossil fuel, but in terms of carbon account, maybe it is not as much as polluting than the coal. So we need to have this in mind as well. But ultimate goal should be and would be that we go from point A to point B, and point A is that we are heavily loaded with fossil fuels and we need to go towards renewable energy. But at the same time, we are also facing this accessibility and affordability and dependence crisis as well. So we need to cater for that as well, so that we are not only self-sufficient, but we have these multiple sources
very
of power and energy
point. So that question happens to be very critical.
Yeah.
Which out of the two should be priority for the Pakistani authorities? Either just going at the very first step for meeting the energy demands, no matter where those sources are found, or going towards the clean energies or the renewables, which one should be prioritized as far as the immediate term is concerned? I'll come back to you to take your deeper understanding regarding that particular point. Mr. Awan, when we talk about the completion on the Pakistani side of this Pakistan-Iran gas pipeline, how crucial do you think that particular completion of the site within Pakistani territory is, and what sort of dividends on multiple fronts do you think are associated with this completion?
Right now, thank you very much on this very critical topic. I think that Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline is not only important from perspective of energy, but also from the perspective of your overall economic security and our national security. So before mentioning something about its critical importance, let me place some facts, some preface with some facts which are very important for you. This project was actually, the idea came in 1950s.
Right, Mr. Awan, I seek your pardon for the interjection over here. Unfortunately, we can't hear you properly, so we'll try to reconnect with you so that we can continue with the discussion with you. Now, as far as the completion of this particular project is concerned, now segregating a number of fronts, where benefits do you think lie the most with the completion of this particular project?
Well, we need to understand the consumption pattern in Pakistan first. Pakistan is sort of a consumptive or consumption based economy. We need to deviate our ways from that. We need to be more productive. We need to link our energy, particularly those who are imported ones, with the industrial sector, so that we can sort of offset the effect of imported fuel with growth in exports, so that the dollar flow that is net negative now, that can be made net positive for Pakistan. That will not only help Pakistan in terms of getting rid of Pakistan's energy deficit, but also in turn it will help Pakistan in developing Pakistan's macroeconomic stability as well. Just to give you an example, in terms of energy, Pakistan has a contrary trend if you compare it with India, China and other countries, is that the share of residential or domestic use is higher as compared to commercial or
that
industrial
is exactly
use.
the point, because already you mentioned there would be a benefit on the domestic front as well, because electricity being a little expensive as compared to the gas as far as the domestic front is concerned. So when you talk about this contrary pattern within Pakistan as compared to the number of countries that you just mentioned, now is it important to have that supply towards the domestic consumer, or the priority should be focused on ensuring a consistent supply towards the industry to make more efficiency over there?
Well, to me, there should be a balance, but balance in such a way that the benefits or utility given from the gas should be reflected into tariff. There should not be blanket sort of subsidies given to household sectors, particularly those who can afford. So there should be no blanket subsidy. I would say there should be a balance between industrial consumption and residential consumption, but industry should be preferred, particularly those who are the exporting industry, so that Pakistan can have this financial flows or foreign exchange flows coming into Pakistan, so that we can use those finances to developing other industry, and we have this balanced sort of growth across the country and across the sectors. Then that surplus or that financial flows could be translated into well-being of residential sector in terms of decreasing the tariffs or increasing the subsidies. But at that time, Pakistan need a persistent sort of policy making, where we can divert all our resources towards industries, those industries who are exporting industries, and we have this export-led growth, and then we translate the benefits to the residential or domestic consumers. That should be the policy that Pakistan should be pursuing for the long term.
If the focus is done towards the industry, and the priority and preference is given to the industry for a consistent supply of gas, right, so that there must be more exports in return, that is what your point. So in that sort of a scenario, do you think there is a possibility of a vacuum being created for the domestic consumer who are already reliant on this source of energy? And if the preference is not going to be focused on them, is it going to be problematic for them?
Well, in that case, we need to understand the seasonality effect in Pakistan, because in summer we have this electricity crisis. Our electricity prices go over the park, and in terms of when it comes to winter, there is a gas crisis. So we need to balance that as well. Maybe some sort of a solution where we can subsidize our electricity in winter, so that the demand can be created, and we can sort of subsidize gas in summer, so that demand can create it. In that way, we need to find a balance, sweet spot, in a way that gas is provided to textile, to other exporting industry in the winter as well. So there is no stoppage or blockade of industrial production, and we keep on running the wheels of our factories, so that there is no lack of, I would say that the gap between import and exports are not wide.
So the pattern, the contrary pattern within Pakistan as to the consumption of this, as far as the domestic and industry is concerned. You already mentioned a number of countries in your earlier take. Could there be a model that could be followed here in Pakistan, which has already been adopted and implemented by one of those countries that you've already mentioned?
Well, I would say that first of all, we need to sort of eliminate these inefficient subsidies, particularly for the fertilizer sector. Although these subsidies are vital for providing cheaper inputs for the farmers, but there should be a mechanism that we have this targeted sort of intervention going on, directly connected with our social security network, our social security programs, and then we eliminate these blanket subsidies. That could not only help Pakistan in terms of achieving efficiency in our gas sector or energy sector, but also reduce the fiscal burden that IMF is asking us to eliminate as well. That might have positive consequences on our circular that is being built over the period of time in gas sector as well. Yep.
Right. So when you talk of that earlier question, what should be the priority for the authorities in Pakistan? So there's a huge energy demand with the increased population as well. We see a continuous increase in the demand of energy supply. Also, so Pakistani authorities are always looking forward to meet that particular demand, trying to find out alternative sources. So this Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline happens to be one of those endeavors that Pakistan wants to complete and get the benefit out of it. Now, when we talk about going towards the other alternative sources, towards the clean energy in particular, at this particular point in time when there is an increasing demand, what should be the priority? Should the priority not be only to focus to just meet that energy demand? Or should that particular endeavor of finding and going towards the clean energy sources simultaneously could be viable also?
Well, I would say that there should be three-pronged approach. First is that we need to link our energy production with our productive industrial demand. That can in turn earn Pakistan with the foreign exchange, and we can then invest that foreign exchange into building or expanding our infrastructure. Second policy is that we do some sort of demand management sort of initiative. In that way, we can not only curtail the demand in household sector, we can have these behavioral changes coming from the consumers end. That could be very influential and effective in that regard. In demand side management, one of the major concern is that we need to account for the gas losses as well, and electricity losses or system losses as well, so that we can have this efficient sort of demand and supply sort of mechanism. Third is that we need to explore alternatives in terms of renewable energy, in terms of alternative energy. One possible option may be linking or wind energy with production of hydrogen. That may be linked with our pipe structure, and that can be transmitted to household end users as well. So there could be multiple options, but we need to have this certainty in our policy and consistency in our policy, and then we need to build sort of connections between the regions in terms of TAPI, in terms of Pakistan-Iran gas pipeline, or in terms of bringing more and more sort of investments coming from Middle Eastern countries. That can diversify Pakistan's option, because Pakistan is naturally deficient country if you see the energy resources. So we need to have this sort of multiple fuel mix in Pakistan, so that we are not dependent only on one source of fuel, and in terms of external shocks, the prices goes up. That could create more and more affordability crisis.
Right. We are once again reconnected to Mr. Amjad Ali Awan. Mr. Awan, can you please hear us?
Yeah, no, I'm audible right now.
Okay, so Mr. Awan, so talking about the significance of the completion of the Pakistani side of the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline, what sort of benefits do you think on a number of fronts are associated as far as Pakistan side is concerned?
Thank you very much for inviting on this program. And let me tell you that this project, Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline, is not only important from the perspective of the energy security, but equally important with respect to our economic security and overall national security of Pakistan. But before talking something about the importance of this project, critical importance of this project, let me highlight a dilemma here in Pakistan with respect to delayed projects. Let me tell you that this project was actually conceptualized even in 1950. Later on, we consolidated this project, and even the tariff was set in the mid-90s. And based upon Pakistan's commitment, we had to start this project in 2012. We had to complete this project by 2014. But a lackluster response remains throughout from the Pakistan side, and that's why this project is delayed. From the critical importance of the energy security of Pakistan, this project is highly, highly relevant. Let me tell you that in the present situation, Pakistan's gas resources are already on the depleting side. Now, we had the available sources of 63 TCF. After that, 43 TCF we have already consumed. So we have little left for the next 10, 15 years that we can use this gas. And let me tell you that our gas reliance on the imports is only 1/3. So 2/3 we are relying on our indigenous gas, which is going to be depleted by the next 10, 15 years. But that's the situation. Secondly, when tariff for gas for this project was set in 90s, it was less than $5 per MBTU. In 2011, this tariff was increased to 11, but nevertheless, this project was equally good if you compare it with the pipeline gas and if you compare with the other LNG options. which was around $18 per MBTU. So this project was feasible, commercially viable. But right now, I'm afraid that if we start this project, the cost will further be snowballed if we further cause any delays for this project. Number three, our dependence on the imports. You see that last year our our imports were around $17 billion, and the overall the trade balance situation is shifted negatively against us because 35 tons of oil equivalent we actually imported. So in this particular perspective, I believe that this project has to be started right now because this is not only the question of our energy security, but also our overall security as well. But the catch is this right now, this project has a diplomatic and international affairs connotation as well, that we had to face the sanctions or restrictions on the part of the USA. So we had to take this decision very, very carefully. But simultaneously, if we not started this project right now, the Iran is going to drag us into International Court of Arbitration, and we had to pay the penalty of almost 17 to 18 billion dollars. So we are in between the devil and the deep sea. Either we have to face these sanctions from the US side, or we have to pay the penalty. But in this particular the corner, Pakistan has to decide with respect to the best country interest and energy interest. So nevertheless, this project should be started, and I'm very happy that now Pakistan has decided that Pakistan will construct the 80-kilometer part from the Gwadar to the Iran border. So this is quite a delectable and encouraging news.
Right, you already mentioned the diplomatic dimension to it. Now, the sanctions on Iran from the US side, do you think those have been the major impediment as far as the Pakistani side's completion of this project is concerned?
Let me differentiate that if you are constructing a pipeline in your own land, there will be no sanctions because Pakistan will be constructing this part of pipeline within its own country area. There will be no sanctions. But as soon as you will start the energy trade with Iran, then sanctions and restrictions will come into force. And I believe that's a very critical side. That's a very critical aspect we have to settle, and we have to seek a waiver from the international side before starting this project. I think the best way to deal with this issue is to use your all advocacy means to impress upon the world that this project is of national security importance for us and it's very critical to us. So if we propagate this project, if we convince the international media, international counterparts, then I think we can go for this project. And we have a point, as I already mentioned, that we have delayed this project for the 15, 17 years. This has increased the cost. Now, the exorbitant capital costs and the tariffs of the gas we have to pay. So with these points Pakistan has and the interest and with respect to the energy security, I think despite the barrier will be there, but Pakistan has to back its way through and to start this project because this is equally very, very important for Pakistan's security overall.
Right now, let's talk about the US side. We have recently seen also, we have repeatedly seen there being continuous expression on the part of the US authorities as to the Pakistan's economy functioning in a better manner. Right, regarding this particular second and the last review of the IMF standby arrangement, there was also a statement that was made by the State Department spokesperson. Now, when the US seems to be so much concerned about the overall functioning of Pakistan's economy and wants to see it functioning in a sustainable manner, so don't you think ideally if this particular project and the supply of the energy through this particular pipeline is so crucial for Pakistan, as you already mentioned, that it happens to be one of the national security needs of Pakistan, shouldn't the US be ideally not thinking about any sort of sanctions once the supply starts?
Let me tell you very clearly, unequivocally, that before this 2004, number of trade-offs were offered to Pakistan. Even in the 2000s, one trade-off offered by the US was that LNG will be the substitute for this kind of pipeline gas. And even at that time, I remember Saudi Arabia also provided some options which were not feasible, commercially viable at that time. But based upon the history and whatever we have suffered and the way the cost is increasing in terms of electricity price and overall energy prices, I think we don't have any way. Let me tell you that the energy trade balance is a very quintessential part of the overall energy security. And right now, Pakistan is importing around 35 million tons of oil equivalent, and we are exporting just less than a million TOE. So the trade balance is against us in this particular scenario. So in any ways, we had to open up and flex our muscle. And let me tell you that this project is a major block which is actually stopping us from the further energy trade in the region, like the TAPI project, like the Trans-Afghanistan pipeline. These projects are being blocked because we don't have good history in terms of energy trade. So this project will be a kick start. So it's all upon your advocacy campaigns, how better you are impressing upon your negotiators and the other counterparts. This project seems very inevitable right now for the Pakistan's energy security needs. As I mentioned, it's not only the financial aspect, it's operational aspect, it's a trade balance aspect. Let me tell you one very important aspect, that this project in 2005-10, we have our 10th five-year plan, medium-term development framework. In that, we put this project as a box to mitigate energy crisis, electricity crisis in Pakistan. This project was going to generate around 4,000 megawatts. Later on, this project could not be conceptualized, it could not be executed, and that's why that 4,000 megawatt actually snowballed into energy crisis that actually we are facing up to right now. So based upon these facts, we had to talk very closely with our own American counterparts and make them understand our energy security need.
Mr. Awan, do we have the examples of other countries which have been importing energy from Iran, especially when we talk about this particular region? And if yes, how did they go about it while navigating through that particular threat of sanctions also?
Let me tell you that the embargoes and sanctions of Iran we have witnessed, so the trade, the energy trade from Iran was actually stopped and actually suffered because of the situation. Right now, Iran has some relationships with the Iran is subject with Russia and some other countries who actually dominate in terms of the international relations and diplomatic ventures. But in terms of the Pakistan, the situation of Pakistan as a third world country, it will be hard for Pakistan to digest these sanctions right now. So Pakistan's situation is much more changed. But Iran and the trade from the Iran, energy trade from Iran has witnessed, I think, a slowdown and a negative response with respect to its trade from Iran to other countries. So that factor is I think, very critical. Yeah.
Right, Dr. Waleed, when we talk about this diplomatic dimension, is there an understanding that could be developed while through advocacy measures or through diplomatic means towards the US, as far as the exemption which is being sought by the Pakistani authorities has already been mentioned by the Petroleum Minister, Mr. Musaddiq Malik? Is there any specific way to go about it and getting the benefits from this particular supply of energy?
Well, I can name one country who imports energy from Iran, that is Pakistan. Pakistan imports electricity for Gwadar from Iran. So maybe the diplomatic efforts, we can navigate from this crisis. This is a situation like between hard place and rock. So we need to navigate through diplomatic channels. First and foremost, this is an important project for Pakistan because it can, Ambassador rightly pointed out that this can kickstart energy regional trade in this whole region because Pakistan is in middle of a region, two regions. On north side, we have Central Asian republics which have gas and other natural resources in terms of energy. We have Middle Eastern on the other side, countries on the other side that can provide Pakistan with a sufficient amount of energy. But again, we do not need to have energy supply coming in from countries who are in terms of regions, those who are prone to disasters and other sort of conflicts, sort of external shocks. So we need to develop this sort of independent and self-sufficient energy fuels and energy sources, so that Pakistan is not caught in a situation where Pakistan's energy supply or energy needs, demands are just focused from one source of fuel. Just let me give you an example in terms of Russia-Ukraine war. The LNG prices go higher up Pakistan's power plant, those who were based on RLNG or LNG, created a very sort of exponential increase in electricity prices in Pakistan that brought multitudinous problems in energy sector of Pakistan, circular debt, affordability crisis, accessibility crisis. So what we need to do is we need to tell involving IMF or other MDBs and multilateral partners, convey it to the US that it is essential for Pakistan's economy. If there is a diplomatic solution, Pakistan can navigate it through diplomacy, not going into either sanction or into international court of arbitration. Both options are not good for Pakistan, not for Pakistan's energy sector, either for not for good for Pakistan's macroeconomic stability. So we cannot afford sanctions, and we cannot afford the international arbitration court as well. So we need to sort of navigate through diplomatic efforts.
So by looking at the statements coming from the US officials that the US wants Pakistan's economy to be functioning in a sustainable manner, what's ideally expected from the US authorities as far as their understanding of the Pakistan's need from this particular project is concerned?
Well, I'm sure that United States of America is fully aware that Pakistan needs that kind of energy sources. So there is a way to tell them that Pakistan's economy is already suffering. We are under IMF funds program. If we do not develop these sort of alternative programs in terms of energy sector, Pakistan's energy turmoil and economic turmoil, that is going to be worsened. And if Pakistan is economically unstable, that would cause more political instability, keeping Afghanistan situation on one hand. That would not be favorable for regional peace, regional stability, as well as the world peace and stability, keeping the crisis in Middle East, keeping the crisis in Russia, Ukraine on one side. I think Pakistan needs to have this stability in the region, and not only for Pakistan, this would be beneficial for whole region as well as the world as well.
Right. We are honored to have been joined by another participant on the phone line, Mr. G.R Baloch, his former ambassador. Mr. Baloch, thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. We're talking about the significance and how crucial is the completion of the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline, particularly the completion of this side within Pakistan territory. Now, by looking at this statement which has come from Pakistan's Petroleum Minister, Mr. Musaddiq Malik, that we cannot bear the American sanctions, and he is also seeking the exemption as far as the sanctions regarding the completion of Pakistani side of the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline project is concerned. How do you think Pakistan can go about it, navigate through this particular narrow corridor of especially convincing the US authorities that it is the national security need of Pakistan in order to complete this particular project, so that Pakistan can have an alternative energy source to meet its energy demands? We can't, Mr. Baloch, we can't hear you properly. We'll try to reconnect with you once again. Let me proceed with the discussion. Mr. Awan, you earlier in your take talked about the depletion of the indigenous sources of energy. Now, when we talk about the depletion, unfortunately, we've lost the connection with Mr. Awan as well. When we talk about the depletion of the energy sources, the indigenous energy sources here in Pakistan, so looking for the alternative sources of energy, when we talk about gas in particular, is there any potential for further areas which could be potentially explored and could be actually taken or exploited?
Well, if you look at the profile of Pakistan in terms of primary energy supply, you'll see that 40% comes from firewood or biofuels, about 20% comes from natural gas, that is the indigenous natural gas of Pakistan, about 20% comes from fossil fuel, about 8% comes from coal, and about 10% comes from nuclear, hydro and wind and solar. Worrying sign is that Pakistan's 20% indigenous natural gas is depleting. We need to find alternatives for that as well. Either we want to explore alternatives in terms of increasing the share of imported fossil fuel or oil, or we want to go towards coal, or we want to increase the ratio of electricity generated through hydro, wind and solar. If we see this in broader ambit of climate change and changing environmental degradation, we should opt for variable renewable energy sources, wind, solar and microhydral dams. But if we see in terms of short-term availability, Pakistan opted to build coal reserves that might not be environmentally sustainable in the long run. We need to develop alternative fuels such as solar, wind, but it would require investments coming into transmission system. It would require digitization of our grid system. It would require sector coupling sort of options, so that we are coupling different sectors with energy generation. For example, we are transforming our transportation sector, bringing more and more electric vehicles. We are electrifying our industry so that there is no dependence of industry on these imported fuel, particularly natural gas, RLNG and coal sort of initiatives, so that there is decarbonization drive going on in our industry as well. So there are options, but these options would take time. These options would take consistent policy making. These options would take certainty in our market, so that more and more private and domestic and international financing options and investors come into Pakistan and invest into these sort of
talking
projects.
about the exploration and the production sector, specifically in the gas sector. Now, how important is the public-private partnership in this? And also, you just mentioned bringing in the investment on that particular front. Now, are there any initiatives underway already to have more exploration in gas particularly? And what's required as far as getting the maximum out of it, as far as the exploration and the production sector in gas is concerned?
Well, as far as the OGRA's directions, one of the reasons to increase gas price in Pakistan is that to make it more lucrative and attractive for gas exploration companies. They see profit and they start to explore more and more gas reserves so that Pakistan can overcome these gas deficiencies as well. We need to not only provide incentives to these gas exploration companies, but also we need to bring more sophisticated technology, plus we need to capacity build the workers involved in these exploration campaigns. Third is that we need to sort of build regional connections, so that more foreign companies in terms of gas exploration and petroleum exploration come into Pakistan. But again, the journey from Pakistan's energy transition should be designed in such a way that we use gas as a transition fuel, but the main destination for Pakistan is that we sort of convert our energy system in a self-sufficient way from fossil fuel based economy to renewable based economy that has more industrial
having
production.
that particular transition towards renewables or the clean energy sources here. Indigenously speaking, where to start from as far as the cost is concerned, or cost is concerned, which could be the best source, the cheapest of all, or the most affordable of all, where to start from?
Well, I think we should start from the gas sector, providing gas to the industrial sector so that Pakistan's exports are increasing. And then exports are increasing, we have this macroeconomic or financial cushion available to us. We can sort of distribute that financial cushion across the sector, and those sectors can be developed. But starting point should be gas, but the end point or the final destination should be an economy which is more industrialized, which is more digitalized and more connected with the renewable energy sources, so that we are not only dependent on other or imported fossil fuel sources, but we have this industrial power going on within Pakistan that attracts more and more investments, not only in energy sector of Pakistan, but other sectors as well.
Right. One very critical point, the accumulation of circular debt. As per the Petroleum Minister, 5 trillion rupees in gas sector only. What are the main causes of it?
Well, three main causes. I would say first is inefficiencies. Second, the unaccounted for gas, that is system losses in gas. So we need to sort of navigate this building circular debt in a way that we are not only making our companies, both the companies, the northern and southern, efficient, but also in a way that we are operating these companies on corporate principles which are responsible for their losses and profits. Second, that we sort of rationalize the manpower involved in these two companies and digitize the system so that we are not only reducing our system losses in gas network, but also we are making it more efficient in terms of supply. And third is that we need to introduce some sort of demand management mechanism, behavioral changes at our residential sector so that the gas is being utilized in a way that is productive and that is in a conservative sort of way. And then lastly, we need to link it with industrial sector. When there would be industrial growth, there would be more and more financial cushion available for policymakers to make it work and link it with economic growth as well.
So do we find any synonymous sort of situation as far as the electricity sector or the power sector is concerned, the transmission, the distribution, the line losses and the theft? Are any of the factors from that particular sector or also in play in the gas sector as well?
Well, in terms of electricity generation, Pakistan's indigenous gas-based power plants, they are the cheaper ones. If we sort of link Pakistan's indigenous gas or transfer indigenous gas towards those plants, Pakistan can not only bring electricity tariff down, it can also make Pakistan's power plant more effective in that regard. Again, bringing the seasonality into account, Pakistan needs to balance the demand for gas and electricity both in summer and winter in such a way that there is no crisis in winter for gas and there is no crisis for electricity in summer as well.
Dr. Khalid Waleed happen to be an economist. Thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.